The green check mark glowed on the phone screen, a small, perfect symbol of a problem solved. I took a slow sip of coffee, letting the warmth of the mug seep into my palms. It was 7 a.m. here, which meant it was 10 p.m. in her village. A world away, a crisis had been averted before my day had even properly begun. It was a feeling of quiet, immense power. My thumb swiped away the transfer confirmation, opening our chat. The 3 little dots were already dancing. A moment later, the messages flooded in. "Thank you, my love. Thank you, thank you, thank you." A string of heart emojis followed, a cascade of digital affection. My mother was crying. She was so worried. Now she is praying for you. You are my hero, my savior. I smiled. A real, uncomplicated smile. Savior. The word landed with a satisfying weight. From my quiet living room, with its minimalist gray couch and neatly stacked magazines, I could reach across oceans and continents and be a force for good. A hero. I typed back, "Anything for you and your family, Angel. Just tell me she's okay." The reply was instantaneous. "She is now, because of you." I leaned back, the phone resting on my chest. The morning sun was just starting to slant through the blinds, striping the floor in patterns of light and shadow. The apartment was silent, save for the hum of the refrigerator. It was always this quiet. The phone was a sleek black monolith in my hand, an anchor to a life far more vibrant and chaotic than my own. This little rectangle of glass and metal was the conduit. Through it, I fixed things. Last month, it was a new roof after a typhoon tore through her province. The 2 months before that, it was her younger brother's tuition fees, ensuring he could stay in engineering school. This time, it was medicine and hospital bills for her mother's pneumonia. Each problem arrived as a flurry of worried, late-night messages, and each time, I solved it with a few taps on a screen. A familiar, nagging impulse took over. My thumb found the icon for my banking app. The fingerprint reader glowed, and my account summary appeared. I navigated to the transaction history, my eyes scanning past my own mundane life. Utility bills, groceries, a subscription renewal. I was looking for the transfers. May 5th, $450. April 12th, $600. February 27th, $350. February 2, $350. December 18th, $500. The list went on, a steady stream flowing one way. I scrolled, a knot tightening in my stomach as the page refreshed, revealing more transfers from the previous year. It was a digital ledger of my generosity, my investment. I was building something, I told myself, a future, a foundation of trust and loyalty with a good, grateful woman who saw the best in me. This was how you showed you were serious. This was a down payment on a life together. My thumb hovered over the screen, the cool glass unresponsive to the heat building in my skin. I had never actually added it all up. I was afraid to. Was this a relationship, or was I merely the primary shareholder in a very small, very personal family enterprise? The phone buzzed against my sternum, a sharp, sudden vibration. I glanced down. A new message from Angel. "I was just showing my mother your picture again. I told her, this is the man who is taking care of us. This is my future." I stared at the words. My picture, my future. The knot in my gut didn't dissolve. It just changed shape. I pushed the unease down, focusing on her words. My future. It was a promise. The money was just a bridge to that future, a necessary, temporary scaffolding. I looked at her profile picture, that bright, hopeful smile that always seemed to be just for me. This was what commitment looked like across a 10,000-mile distance. It wasn't just words, it was action. It was proof. The knot in my stomach was my own cynicism, a product of a world she was exempt from. I was the one who was jaded, not her. Later that evening, the quiet of the apartment began to feel less like peace and more like a vacuum. I needed to hear her voice. I pressed the call button. It rang twice before she picked up. "My love!" Her voice was high and sweet, but it was competing with a wall of sound. Music throbbed in the background, punctuated by shrieks of laughter. "Angel? Hey, where are you? It's so loud." "I'm at home, my love. Just at home," she said, her voice straining slightly. "My cousins, they came over to celebrate that my mother is okay now. We are so happy because of you." I tried to picture it, a house full of relatives, a joyful, spontaneous party. But the music wasn't a home stereo. It had the bass-heavy, distorted echo of a commercial sound system. I could hear a man's voice shouting over a microphone in the background. "I thought your mother was still weak," I said, trying to keep my own voice even. "Oh, she is. She is resting in her room. We are being quiet for her," she insisted, just as a wave of karaoke singing crested in the background. My mind fumbled to reconcile the two realities, the sick, resting mother and the party raging in the same small house. The contradiction hung in the air between us, a staticky silence underneath the noise. "I miss you, my love," she added, her tone shifting, becoming softer, more intimate. It felt like a deflection, a practiced pivot. The call ended soon after, leaving me with a sour taste in my mouth. I unlocked my phone and went to her social media page, a place I usually only visited to see the new photos she told me she'd posted. This time, I scrolled with a new, unwelcome sense of purpose. I went back weeks, then a month, and then I saw it. A photo posted on a Saturday afternoon 3 weeks prior. She was at a beach, white sand and turquoise water behind her, holding up a brightly colored drink in a coconut shell. She was with a group of friends, all of them tan and smiling, wearing new-looking swimwear. The caption read, "Weekend getaway! So needed this. #blessed." My blood went cold. I remembered that week perfectly. She had messaged me on Wednesday, distraught. Her laptop had broken, she'd said. It was old, and she needed a new one for her online classes, which were her only path to a better job. The deadline to register was Friday. Her tears had felt so real through the screen. I sent the money that night, $700, enough for a decent laptop. I never saw a picture of it. I zoomed in on the beach photo. The smile on her face was radiant, carefree. There was no trace of the stress and desperation she had projected just 2 days before. My thumb moved to the comments section. It was the usual flood of fire emojis and compliments from her friends. Then I saw a comment from a man's profile I didn't recognize. It was from a week ago. "Always beautiful, Mahal. See you soon." Mahal, my love. The word felt like a punch. I clicked on his profile. It was private. I scrolled back to the picture, my heart hammering against my ribs. I told myself it could mean anything. A friend, a cousin, a cultural nuance I didn't understand. But the easy confidence in his words, "See you soon," felt different. It wasn't the grateful, reverent tone I was used to. It was familiar, assured. I put the phone down on the coffee table, the screen still glowing with her smiling face. The image of the green checkmark from my banking app flashed in my mind, the symbol of power, the hero, the savior. For the first time, it looked different. Not like a solution, but like a ticket to a show I was only just beginning to realize I didn't have a script for. My mind was a courtroom, and I was both prosecutor and defense, presenting evidence for and against the woman whose face was still smiling on my phone. An ill-advised comment, a poorly timed beach trip. It could all be explained away. Coincidence, misunderstanding. I was spinning narratives, creating scenarios where her innocence remained intact. I needed proof, one way or the other. The man's profile was a dead end, but his name was a key. I went back to her page, navigating to the photos she was tagged in. It was a digital back alley, full of blurry group shots and memes she'd been included on. I scrolled for hours, my thumb aching, my eyes burning. I was a man possessed, digging through a life I had only ever seen through a carefully curated keyhole. And then I found it. On her cousin's page, nestled in an album from 4 months ago titled Fiesta 2026, was a picture that stopped my heart. It was a candid shot. Angel was sitting at a long table laden with food, laughing, her head thrown back. Next to her, with his hand resting high on her thigh, was the man. He wasn't looking at the camera, he was looking at her, a look of lazy, confident ownership on his face. It was the look of a man who knew he would be going home with her that night. The oxygen left my apartment. The picture was an artifact from a different reality, one that had been running parallel to mine all along. I clicked on the cousin's main profile. It was public. I scrolled through her albums, my hands shaking. Album after album, fiesta after birthday, after random Tuesday night. And he was always there. In the background of a family photo, at the edge of a group selfie, his presence a constant, casual fact. They were a known quantity, a couple. The final, brutal confirmation came from an album dated 2 months ago. The cover photo was Angel, beaming, holding a cake. The title of the album was 2 words, Happy Anniversary. Inside, there were dozens of photos. Angel and the man posing together. Angel and the man feeding each other cake. Angel and the man surrounded by her family. The same family whose litany of disasters I had been funding. My money, my investments, were there in every frame. The new dress she was wearing, the expensive-looking watch on his wrist, the very food on the table. My anything for you had paid for this. The $600 for the typhoon-damaged roof was this anniversary party. The $700 for the broken laptop was the beach getaway they'd taken to celebrate. The urgent plea for her brother's tuition had coincided with the down payment on a new motorcycle he was proudly straddling in one of the photos, Angel perched behind him. I thought back to her words, my hero, my savior, my future. They were just words, the right words for the right price. I looked at the picture of her feeding him cake, a tender, intimate gesture. That was the action. That was the truth. I wasn't a shareholder in her family's enterprise. That implied I owned a piece of it. I was just a line item in the budget, an incoming wire transfer under the category of miscellaneous revenue. The power I felt with that green check mark wasn't power over her life. It was just the cost of my own delusion. Generosity hadn't been the fast track to her heart. It was the fuel for a life she was living with someone else. And the most humiliating part was the sudden, ice-cold certainty that I wasn't even the only one. There were other players on the field, other green check marks from other quiet rooms around the world. We were all just qualified to play the game, and none of us knew we were on the same team. I didn't move. The phone stayed on the coffee table, a tiny, glowing portal to a life that had never been mine. The shock had passed, leaving behind the kind of clarity that follows a fever. The rage, the humiliation, it all felt secondary now, like the aftershock of an earthquake whose damage was already done. There was no more frantic searching, no more desperate attempts to assemble the puzzle pieces into a picture I could live with. The picture was already there, sharp and undeniable. Her family smiling, her boyfriend's hand on her skin. The anniversary cake I had paid for. The phone buzzed again, a faint, insistent vibration against the wood. I knew what it would be. A follow-up message. A new string of heart emojis. a photograph of a crying child or a hospital bill, expertly framed to elicit the precise blend of pity and power I had come to crave. The performance would continue, with or without an audience. For a moment, I considered my options. I could confront her. I could send back the screenshots, the proof of her other life. I could unleash the fury of a man betrayed, watch her lie and deny, and finally, perhaps, admit it. I could have the satisfaction of hearing the truth from her own lips. But the truth was already here, sitting in the silence of my apartment. Exposing her felt like a pointless, hollow victory. It would be like yelling at the television screen because I didn't like the ending of the movie. She wasn't a monster. She was a pragmatist. She was playing the game with the cards she'd been dealt. I was the one who had walked into the casino and pretended it was a church, mistaking the transaction for a sacrament. I looked around my quiet, orderly living room. It was the same room where I had felt like a king, a savior, a hero solving problems for a grateful woman a world away. Now it was just a room. The power I had felt was an illusion, a story I had told myself. The green check mark wasn't a symbol of my strength. It was the price of my delusion. I picked up the phone, but I didn't open her message. I didn't need to read the next line in the script. I turned the phone off completely. The screen went black, and my own pale, tired reflection stared back at me. I hadn't unlocked her heart with my generosity. I had just been paying to watch the show, and I'd finally realized I wasn't the romantic lead. I was just funding the production.